Welcome to Pay Attention, a podcast guiding you from the chaos of the mind to the clarity of the heart. Here's your host, Holly McNeill.
Hello and welcome. Well, we are in the full swing of the holiday season. So hopefully everyone is out there with family, doing what you do in the holidays, getting ready for a joyous time. I know some of you may not be. I know I certainly spent some holidays that were less than ideal, but we're here with you on that as well. And as it's the holiday season, we're wrapping up our first season of Pay Attention, and it has been an amazing, amazing journey. We're actually going to have season 2 starting in January. So along the way, we work out some of our bumps and figure things out. And so I've learned to listen to a little bit of the recording that we play with a guest ahead of time to just so I don't repeat myself. And I realized that I recorded this with my guest today in the dog days of summer. So this episode is not on patience, but thank you, Rita Ernst, for being so patient with me and for coming on today and for being here on Pay Attention.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we've talked back and forth for a while, and we're finally getting this on here, and I appreciate it. And you've got your own podcast that's going to have a second season.
Yes, January 6th, we go live with the new season. So, and we've still got 2 episodes dropping to finish out season 1. So,
yeah, the stories I tell myself.
The story right? I'm telling myself.
I'm telling myself. So today's episode is all about those stories, right? Everything. I love how science is catching up and people are starting to get all of this. So when you and I first met, we're like, Rita does a lot with business. And we talk in the recording, we've talked in the studio how I'm more on the spiritual realm, trying to bridge science and contemplative practices. But I absolutely loved our conversation that we had. So if you guys are ready, please enjoy. What is this one called? Why Our Stories Shape Us.
Nice.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pay Attention. I'm not sure when this episode's going to air or where you're at in the world, but we're experiencing the dog days of summer, even out here in Southern California. My sister's actually visiting me from Vermont, so I think she brought the humidity with her. But anyway, so I'm in my summer gear. But today, I am really excited to talk to someone that we kind of thought maybe we don't have enough in common, but very quickly realized that whatever it is you want in the world or whatever it is you're looking for, it's about allowing it, trusting it, and creating the space. So with that, I'm really excited to introduce my guest, Rita Ernst. Rita, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Holly. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm very excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. Rita suggested that I listen to an episode of her podcast, The Story I'm Telling Myself, and we're going to get into that in a moment. But first, tell our listeners who you are. I know you help leadership organizations really get what they want, but in your own words, tell us who's here today.
So I'm an organizational psychologist, which means I'm just a huge geek about the science of psychology and how it informs our ability to bring people together in the world of work to make exciting, innovative, important things, meaningful things happen. And everything that we know about social psychology, about the biology of the human being, it all informs how we show up in the workplace. And so my entire career has been focused in the world of work, looking at human beings and saying, how do we create the right containers that allow people to show up and get the most while giving the most simultaneously?
Wow, social psychology. I love that. And I love your work, and especially in business. So for me, as an architect, I was all in my head, and I was forcing, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, especially with the glass ceiling in a career like architecture. And it wasn't until I hit rock bottom at what they're now calling the quarter life crisis that I started looking for that space, that clarity, how to create that, the atmosphere, the knowing or whatever for things to happen. And in fact, when we first talked, it was like, I don't know if we have enough in common to really, do this episode. But then we quickly realized that whether it's business, awakening, spirituality, whatever it's you're looking for, it's about creating the space to do so, isn't it? Wouldn't you say?
It absolutely is. And at the core of all of that is also our values, really honoring, really trusting yourself and honoring yourself. And I feel like that was the place where we found such connection in our work, because you're much more spiritually oriented than I am with my business focus. But that foundational thing about really listening to your own voice and trusting that knowing that lives inside of you and cultivating that knowing. That to me was the place where it was like, we have so much we could talk about.
Yes. In fact, she recommended an episode with Gary Spencer of her podcast, of who had like 4 or 5 failed businesses. He's from the UK somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where in the UK, but when he had this kind of inspiration or this epiphany to take a pause, right? And he got up every morning and just listened to the silence, and it's something about digging into the darkness, right? We're often afraid to look at what we have inside. We're trying to push on the outside, and those values, that trust gets lost in there. So what do you tell someone who's just pushing, but not really, looking inside?
Well, the most important question to ask yourself when you feel like you're in that strive, but you're not getting a result, is to ask, what am I resisting? Right? Because that is the thing that is holding that. It's the resistance that is holding you back. And what we learned in Gary's episode was, Gary is a very spiritual person. He is a Christian. That's his choice of spirituality, but he is a very spiritual person. And what he recognized was that he was resisting his ability to just be and allow things to unfold. He was trying to force things. What he was resisting was the stillness, the trusting that something could emerge. And so, he felt a very clear calling to rise before the sun and to read his scripture and contemplate and sit in that contemplation. And as he built this business that he is now handing off to his sons to run, as he looks at his retirement, he is, but in building that business, it was a totally different build than anything he had done before. But there was that resistance. We all have it somewhere inside of us. And when we can identify that and really say, let me just step away from that for a minute, that's when powerful things can happen.
That's when things flow. That's the flow. And most of the time we don't know it, but we're fighting that resistance. We're pushing and fighting. And that's what clogs us up. That's what clogs up this amazing flow that comes with trust. And he was talking about in the episode how he was looking to raise money and was going to do the regular way of just, doing presentations. But then this allowing, right? The money showed up. And I can't tell you how many times, Rita, in my life, I should know better, right? That if I just let it go, just almost immediately, as soon as I'm like, okay, you know what? Forget it. I can't do this. I let it go. Then things start to flow. And we're not taught that way, right? It's not something we're taught. Yeah.
We're not. We are taught at a very young age when we're trying to acquire new skills. We are taught persistence, right? The winners are those who persist, push
yeah,
until they get there, right? And so it requires a different level of knowing. It makes me think of, I can't remember right now who wrote the book. it's on the tip of my tongue, but what got you here won't get you there. That
Mhm.
idea of that, when you try to take the playbook that has gotten to you to a certain level of success in your life and just replicate it and replicate it and replicate it, at some point it loses its veracity to get you new levels of results. You have to change something about where you are and how you are. And so that persistence might have been really important. It might still be important at certain levels of learning,
Yes.
but when it becomes overplayed in our lives, that persistence becomes the resistance.
Yeah. I love the way you frame that, because there's certainly things in my life, in my 26 years in architecture that taught me a lot. I'm kind of trying to outrun my air cover, and I kept moving around trying to run away from people but life kept showing me those same types of people, right? Because I was resisting instead of looking at, okay, what is this trying to show me? What do I need to do to change? And what I love in the spiritual realm or whatever is you don't actually have to find it out there. It's all in here. The answers are all inside. And as Gary, like you said, he got up an hour before and in the silence and just listened and I think, what was it? Design the unexpected. So he was a contractor building homes, which is ironic because that's, of course, what I grew up in. And, just design the unexpected. And he did that, and people loved it. And even he talked about, he had people next door, other developers that were messy and disrespectful to the neighborhood. And he was just open, right? And had lunch on Fridays. But these ideas, when you let go of all of this, you're clogged up. You only have so much energy. But when you let go, all of this stuff, it's like a wisdom comes through.
Yes, I think that's very true. And look, I think it's true in business as well. I left my corporate life in 2006. I started freelancing. I set up my business in 2008. So I've been on this side of coaching and consulting independently for quite a while now. And what has been foundationally true from day one in my practice is this belief that the answer is inside of every client who sits across the table from me. The answer lives within them. They're not coming to me for answers. I've worked with people in all kinds of different industries. If we were dependent on my answers, we would be really limited. But the truth is, most of us know. We do have that deeper knowing, but it is blocked. Our deeper knowing is blocked by all the chaos inside of ourselves. And my number one job is to calm the chaos for people and allow that knowledge to flow.
Yeah. I love that. We have, like we said, we have more in common than we thought at first, because I talk about making decisions from the heart and not the chaos in your head. And it's the habits and patterns that we don't even know we're doing, right? So,
yes.
So do you work with individuals, or do you work with larger organizations, or do you?
I do both of those things. Both of those things. And I love working inside of teams and organizations. And I have some partnerships with companies where I'm in there every year doing work with them. And in other places, I'm just parachuting in to do, a thing. And then I'm extricated again. Coaching for me is a foundational skill that is essential to success, because any singular event that I do is only a great event unless we have the pull through and the follow through that is happening in the organization. And that's where the coaching piece comes in. Coaching with leaders before the event, coaching with leaders after the event. And then there are people who just that for a variety of reasons want to engage with a coach, to elevate their game and amplify their impact inside of their organization. So there are, it all fits together in one way or another. But again, at the foundation, why it fits together for me is that I really believe in personal agency in the workplace. You never get to control anyone else. You never, even when you're the boss, trust me, you might feel controlled by your boss, but your boss is thinking they have control over nothing as well, because they don't really have control. And so we are heavily reliant on our personal agency. And so I never want anyone to feel like they are a victim. Being a victim is a story that we are allowing to rob us of our agency. Because you may not be able to change everything that you want to change, but you have a place of wisdom and power in every situation. And it's just a matter of your ability to access it.
Accessing it. Yeah. As you're speaking, I was thinking, I love the word person, the term personal agency. And I was going to ask you, having been in the corporate world and also on the spiritual journey, you talk about having longer engagements and sometimes just dropping in, like parachuting in. So for yourself, for your own journey, is that something when you go in, do you know, I guess if you don't mind, do you practice what you preach, just really being open? Do you know what they need? And how does that usually flow for you?
I don't have anything that is canned inside of my business. So everything I have a series of knowings and beliefs that I operate from. There are values around what an effective organization is like, and the way that the experiences that people have inside of a company that I believe are foundational and important. So I bring that knowledge into everything, and it informs design, but I design for each client, for each situation. So we always start with a getting to know you conversation. Tell me what's going on, and an opportunity to really formulate what is going to be the most important and most successful thing to do. Now, sometimes I create something for one organization, and with minor tweaks, I replicate it in other organizations because it's a strong design and it works in multiple places. But I never assume and I never sell it as a canned program because of exactly what you're saying. Because I really do believe that it's important that I am paying attention and meeting people where they are instead of expecting them to meet me.
Yeah. Let's get back, given that this is a podcast about paying attention to that trust that we're not really learned or not really taught to know and to nurture, and how our habits and patterns and all our beliefs and our imposter syndrome and our inferiority complexes all cover up, right? So whether, like as I said, whether you're trying to grow a business or spirit, awaken, or on a spiritual journey, how do people start to find that trust, would you say?
Well, one of the practices that I have incorporated into my practice is the positive intelligence practice from Shirzad Sharman. And I would encourage people to get the book and look into it. But what's powerful about that particular practice in learning to know and trust yourself is he breaks down the internal critic into these 10 voices that that through psychological metric analysis, he was able to kind of identify these 10 types of voices and the motivation behind those voices that cause that create our inner critic voice, because we all have an inner critic voice that goes nonstop inside of our head. And we are so in tuned to our inner critic that it happens at a subconscious level.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, we're noticing that voice, but it's going on all the time, even when we're not noticing it.
Mm-hmm.
And Mocha Dot also wrote a great little book about this. And in his book, he encouraged people to name that voice inside of their head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a very powerful practice, because when you name it, so my main internal critic is Miranda from The Devil Wears Prada. She slides the
Miranda.
glasses down the nose, like
Yes.
she silences the room with a glance. You don't,
Yeah.
it's all in the
Mhm.
facial, right? The
Mhm.
scorn, the
Yes.
derision,
I know
everything.
exactly. Yes.
Right
she's
there.
good. Meryl Streep did an excellent job in that portrayal.
She did. And so Miranda is my inner critic. And so when somebody comes into a conversation with me and I am not receptive and I am feeling some kind of anger or frustration and I am allowing that to show, that is Miranda. And when I look back on that and I say, wow, I really let Miranda take control of that, and that did not go so well. Right? I mean, it just helps me make space to say, I don't have to let Miranda have control. Right. So
we have a choice. That's right. We
have a choice about that. And so I also have this deeper, the other part of Shirzad's thing is, so you have your inner critic, but you also have your sage wisdom inside of you. And so the other side of that, and Michelle Phillips and I talked about this on.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, she
yeah.
names her.
You
she's
so
you could guess. Yeah.
You can also name your inner wisdom. And as you cultivate a relationship, this is the wiser, knowing version of me. And as I cultivate a relationship with the wiser, knowing version of me, then I have this choice where if I notice Miranda, I can say, you know what, I need to, how would Grace handle this? What does Grace have to say? And reflecting. And we actually, neurologically, we can create neural pathways just by reflecting on situations that we have been through and reimagining. So when we get hijacked by our inner critic and we're beating ourselves up or we're beating other people up, we're having all of that self-limiting thinking, we can reimagine that and we can invite Grace, our inner, whatever your inner knowing is, reimagine as if she stepped in and took control, and we begin to build neural pathway to have her step forward more frequently. Yeah. And so it's a practice you can develop.
Yeah, nerve cells that fire together, wire together. Equally, nerve cells that no longer fire together, no longer wire together. It is a practice. Everything is a practice. It's creating those neural pathways. And you're touching on a lot of things that I teach that, we talked about another guest I think we probably both had on our podcast, Michelle Phillips. And what I love about these practices and this journey is that it all points back to that inner wisdom, that quiet, that inner wisdom that we're born with. I mean, when we're born, we come into this world, before you were even named Rita and I was named Holly, right? There was this awareness, this openness. And for you listening out there, with, again, whether it's business or you're on your personal journey, it's about, going back and listening to Grace or the silence, or I can't remember other names, but I've heard this before. And
no, you're never going to get rid. I'm never getting rid of Miranda. Miranda will always be a part of me because Miranda is also good for me. It's just that sometimes she is inserting herself too aggressively in the wrong situations, right? But having your inner critic go, that's probably not good enough, Rita. You could probably do better than that. Like we need that self-reflection as well. Yeah. And so it isn't about saying it's bad and we need to get rid of it. Yes. It is about recognizing how much of our self-identity is wrapped up in those things, right? Are we allowing Miranda to have a lot of our identity? Because if your inner critic is holding a lot of your identity, then you are being way harder on yourself. You need the I am worthy affirmations. The people that are focusing on affirmations, they're focusing on affirmations because their inner critic is so strong and they are trying to unlock, right? Instead of resisting, then you create the practice of reminding yourself of your worthiness, of the goodness in you. And, and it's when you notice that your inner critic just tripped you up, you go, hey, but I noticed it. That's worth celebrating. Yeah. I'm celebrating that right now. And then that's where gotta let it go and move on. Right.
Yeah. That's where awareness comes in. I just taught a class in my awareness hub a couple of days ago about equanimity, right? If you're standing on a bridge, right, and you look over to one side and it says, this is good, right? You're always wanting to get to that side. And you look over at the other side and that's on this other side, this is bad. And you're always trying to push away from that. But if you just stay in the center, you see life flowing under the bridge, and just seeing. It's about seeing what you're reacting to, what you're reacting from, where you're making your choices. And that in that calm, in that seeing, right, you're not attached to either one, right? You're exactly right. The bad isn't all bad, and the good is a desire you're always going to want more of. So if you can stay in the center, I tell you what, things open up and this flow starts to go and the answers and start to come. And even the money in Gary's case starts to just show up. People start to show up. Things just start to show up because you're no longer resisting. You're no longer blocking. You're just standing in the center of that bridge, open, receiving. Yeah, kind of in this human journey.
That's that receiving thing. So it's the Pay Attention podcast. Pay attention. In your body, what are you feeling? Are you feeling open, breathing, receiving, or are you feeling push, resistance, negativity, right? If you feel the push, the resistance, negativity, that's just an important signal. Okay, ding, ding, ding. Something is not right.
Right. Something's blocked, nothing's flowing.
But that's just information that I need to say, oh, I need to recenter myself. Then you get to pick the practices that are your favorite, your most effective practices to get yourself back to center and flow. But an important tip that I will give your listeners about that is your practice. Which is great back.
Because I always ask you read my mind. I always ask, what is one thing you want to leave the listeners with? So here you go.
So on this, that the answer when you feel that resistance, right, is not to swat away and fix the resistance, right? So what that negative, whatever it is, giving more energy to that in any shape or form is not the right answer. That is my tip for you. The answer is going to be to shift away from that. So for many people, play, breathing, take a walk, call your best friend. One of my favorite practices is in that moment, pause, think about somebody that you need to say a thank you to, or to express some level of appreciation or gratitude to. Pause and write them that note. That will reset your energy. I promise you, it will. Center. Yes.
Get you out of that neural net, out of that entanglement, and kind of so where you can see it a little bit differently. It's always that way when you're in an argument. If you walk away, take a breath and come back, you see it in a whole new light. So Rita, I love this. I love the fact that we started out going, I don't know if we have anything in common.
And now we could go for an hour. Yeah.
Yes, so much. But I do want to keep this short. So thank you so much. Thank you for your work and for recommending and listening to Gary's story. And I'll actually put the link to that episode in the description, because it works that way. This is how life works. You can let go of the resistances. You see the resistances, right? You come back to the center and life starts to flow.
And the story I'm telling myself is we're in our first season, but every episode is about this discovery journey somebody has been on, their personal stories of recognizing those self-limiting beliefs and how we just fell into a rhythm of behavior that was not serving us, and then how we were able to reset or break free from that. So I feel like your guests and my guests are going to get a lot from each other's podcast. So come on over and join us at the Story I'm Telling Myself. We would love to have you.
You see, again, we're right online here. I was going to ask how they get a hold of you. So we'll definitely put the link to that podcast in the description. Any other contact information you want to give, or anything you've got going on right now you want to talk about?
Ignite Extraordinary. So www.igniteextraordinary.com is my website. And that's going to give you access to everything. That's going to give you all of my socials, every place that I have content going, ways to connect in and see what I am doing. So just go on over there. That's what websites are for. They're containers for easy access to everything. So there you go. Right. That's the best one.
Well, check out what Rita's all about, because there's a lot of wisdom, a lot of clarity and wisdom coming through. So thank you so much, Rita, for joining us today. And I love the synchronicity, because it's all pointing back to that wisdom we all have within us. So thank you, Rita, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Holly. And this has been a beautiful conversation. And I really hope people come in the comments and tell us, what are you taking away? What are you trying from what we're doing? Help us get better. Yes.
Yeah, I can feel the energy of it. So thank you. And thank you, listeners. I mean, I just feel really up about this and positive, because I know that within you is that wisdom and clarity. And no matter what's keeping you stuck right now, it's all there. You just got to get back to the center, maybe get up a little bit early in the morning, whatever. Listen to the stillness, and you will find your way. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you on another episode of Pay Attention. Rita, I
know that was a beautiful conversation to revisit. You forget.
Yeah.
Because, it's so true. You and I are in the moment people anyway, but when you are in flow, you're not planning, you're not orchestrating, right? You are just showing up and being. Yes. And wow, we were really being, we were in sync. That was something. We were being very in sync.
I love going. It's so relaxing for you listening out there for us to be here, but also just to watch and listen. Because there was so much wisdom coming through there, so much, and I watching my own head in the background, trying to this and blah blah. I'm like, you know what? Just let it flow, and I did, and I listened, and just the energy changes when you get out of those stories, and I do not have a name for my inner critic and my inner wisdom. We had Michelle Phillips on last week. Maybe I should, I don't know, but it's a good idea. But if you can, let all of those thoughts, see through them, I've read recently that it's not about clearing meditation. It's not about clearing it out. It's just about seeing through them for what they are, just thoughts, and really letting that wisdom flow through. So,
yeah, I mean, whether you do or you don't, I mean, it's a technique, right? Naming them is a technique that is intended to help you have psychological distance. When I say, "Oh, that's Miranda," see, then I'm not taking that on as just me, right?
Yes.
Which gets me out of shame and guilt and all of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at the core, what we're talking about paying attention to is paying attention to your energy.
Yeah.
And once you're paying attention to your energy, you're going to know whether you are operating from Miranda or Grace. You're going to know, which of those people are in control. Is this your inner wisdom and light leading you? Or is this your inner critic, your inner judge that is leading you? And every time you can catch that, breathe through it, and then reset it.
Yeah. I think it's the inner critic that creates the stories around which we live through those lenses of the past. It's the inner wisdom that flows in the now, in the moment, and lets that clarity come through. And it is a technique, because in Buddhism, when I was practicing Buddhism, they talk about, instead of saying, I am angry or I am this, watching it arise in your mind. Another way to create that distance, to see things differently. So, wow, what a great episode. I loved listening to it. I loved,
And I love that we had friends in the comments.
Yes, Gary's here. Gary's here. Thank you so much for joining us, Gary. I loved your episode. The stories we tell, the stories I am telling myself, the story I'm telling myself. I am going to be a guest in March, and thank you for changing the time, Rita. She told me
yes,
7 a.m. here in California. But anyway, I'm going to be a guest next year, so I'm honored. Thank you so much.
I am looking forward to it. And I hope that everybody who's listening now will come back and join us, because we do an actual live recording on my show. So there is no post-production. We just go for it in the moment. We live in the flow. And you can tell Holly and I love to be in flow together. So.
Yes, definitely. So thank you, Rita, for coming today. And thank you, listeners. As we're wrapping up season 1, we have our last guest for the year. Next year, Dr. Linka Schultz, all about intuition. So again, being in that flow. And anyway, so I hope you join us next week. I will be doing a Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve solo to give you guys some, hope for the new year. But excited, Rita, to have you here. My heart, like with the episode, my heart feels so open. So everyone, in this crazy holiday time, right? Take a deep breath and pause for a minute. So, Rita, have a lovely holiday season.
You as well, Holly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will see everyone again next time on Pay Attention.
Thanks for watching Pay Attention with Holly McNeill. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week on Wednesday at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern.